Hi, welcome to another episode of Your Individual Wedding. We speak a lot on this podcast about diversity and inclusion, and we acknowledge that the wedding industry itself is very slow in embracing diversity and in ensuring that couples from all walks of life, backgrounds, ethnicities and identities are represented in mainstream wedding media. Our guest today is Ofe from Studio Oudizo, and she has set up the Noire Wedding Edit, which aims to promote Black wedding-owned businesses and to ensure that couples of colour see themselves represented in a wide variety of weddings and wedding media as they plan their big day. It was a really interesting and thought-provoking chat. We recorded it a few months ago at the start of lockdown, and I deliberately didn't want to release it until this time in the year to ensure that the conversation about racial equality and Black Lives Matter continues beyond Blackout Tuesday and a trending hashtag. So it's a really important issue that we need to keep having in the wedding industry, and it's something that all of us as suppliers need to make sure we are actively working towards to ensure that all couples getting married can come to us and see that we work and embrace with all cultures, and that we've taken the time to develop our skills and develop our branding to make sure that we are truly inclusive. All the details for the Noire Wedding Edit and Studio Oudizo are in the comment section of this podcast, so please do go and check them out and support them once you have listened. Thank you very much, and I will be back in a fortnight's time. Hi, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being on board this afternoon. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Hi, Ross. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ofe, and I own Studio Oudizo. It's a boutique design and calligraphy studio where we create wedding stationery, we do lots of calligraphy, and we also design branding for small businesses, so brand websites and things like that. I am also the creator of the Noire Wedding Edit, which is a directory that's set to launch later this summer, that will be showcasing the talents of Black wedding business owners and also celebrating Black love. So basically it's a directory for everyone, because the resources will be available for everyone to use for their weddings or for, to collaborate with or work with. But we'll get more into that later.
Yeah, as I say, we've got lots to talk about today. So first off, how did you get into the wedding industry? Did you start off doing your calligraphy and your design work first?
So it's a bit of a funny story. Before I started working in weddings, I was working in finance. So I was a banker. And then I had a kid. I had a daughter. Okay. And I don't know, I just couldn't really bear the thought of getting away, of leaving her after. I mean, yeah, I've totally recovered from that by now. At that time, I couldn't bear the thought of being away from her. So I started sort of brainstorming ways that I could stay at home and still earn a living. And then her christening came up, and I thought, okay, I'll try and see if I can make decorations and invitations to her christening. And I had a lot of fun doing it. Looking back, it was awful stuff. It was terrible, but I really enjoyed it. And I had so much fun. And I thought, right, this is what I'm going to do. So I spent a lot of time researching. I taught myself graphic design, and then I learned calligraphy as well, and it just kind of went from there.
Wow, so it's self-taught, because looking at your website, I thought she must have a graphic design degree or have studied it for years and years.
Nope.
But it's just sort of something that you discovered and loved and went from there. That's brilliant. Fantastic. So you're based in Cheltenham, but you've got studios elsewhere, is that right?
Yeah, I'm based in Cheltenham. My family and I live here, but I also grew up in Ireland, and I'm over there a lot as well. So I do a lot of workshops over there as well as here.
Exciting. It must be really good as,
Oh,
as
and
a business?
Nigeria. And Nigeria, of course.
Oh, okay, lovely. So all over the world, and that's quite good going, because is it like 5 years you've been in the industry?
Yeah, I started in 2015, so
Wow,
5 years.
have that international reach
Five
within
years,
5 years.
yeah, just past 5 years.
Fantastic. So how do you see your business growing and evolving? It must have sort of changed already in those 5 years. Have you learned a lot and learned things that you don't want to do again, or that you want to grow from?
Well, my style has definitely changed a lot. Initially, I made and stuff, but then as I got more into graphic design, I started to fall in love with typography and focus more on that. So you won't find much ribbon or lace in my work anymore. And my branding's changed. It used to be very, very pink. Now it's very green and botanical. And the things I do as well, I do a lot more calligraphy now than I did in the beginning, and I do a lot of teaching as well. So I've taught at the college in my town, and I've traveled everywhere doing calligraphy workshops.
Wow, fantastic.
So, sorry, go on.
No, I think it's wonderful, and it's interesting that you say sort of your branding and that's changed, because it's I think it's really refreshing to get away from the sort of the pinks and the lace, and it's a real nice sort of modern, fresh look that you've got, which I think probably has a wider appeal, and it really stands out as a brand.
Yeah, my brand name changed as well. I wasn't Studio Oudizo when I started. It was actually Oli Studio, which was named after my daughter. And then I had another child. I had a son, and I thought, what if he grows up and he gets annoyed that his name's not on my company?
Of course, yeah.
So I changed the business name, so no one would feel left out.
Oh, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Cool. So, as we said, you've got a wonderful business as it is, but you're really passionate about your other project, which is the Noire Wedding edit. So you mentioned it briefly at the start, but can you just talk a little bit more about what that is, and where that started and why? Okay,
so like I said, I've been in the wedding industry for about 5 years, and it is a very, very, very white place to be in. And if you're a Black person, if you're white, you probably don't notice it because it's just like it's the water for you. But if you're not, then that's kind of all you see, that you're not represented anywhere. And it started with trying to find vendors for my wedding. I'm pretty sure everybody I work, especially in the area of the UK I live in, I couldn't find anyone that looked like me to work on my wedding. So my makeup artist, I remember having a trial with one from this area, one from Cheltenham, and I just looked really odd when she was finished. I looked like a ghost, and it was just flattering because they didn't know how to work with my skin tone, or it was a bit depressing, to be honest. I ended up having to get a makeup artist come all the way from London to do my makeup. Like, that's how bad it was. And not even to talk of hair. I did my own hair. The food obviously didn't match my culture. We just had to eat whatever the hotel gave us. And pretty sure there was some grumbling, but whatever, they weren't paying for it. And it was just a bit disheartening, because I remember when I first got engaged, I was excited looking at magazines, and we just kept flipping, and there was no one that looked like me. So it can be really hard to picture yourself in that setting if you don't see people that look like you, represented. So when I got into the wedding industry, I noticed the same thing as well. Whenever there are seminars, conferences, talks, summits, meetings, it's always white voices, always white people leading. We're never asked to speak, we're never asked to contribute, we're never asked to lead. We're not featured in style shoots as vendors or models. It was just it to the point where it felt like nobody wanted me there. And so I started talking about it a lot, the lack of diversity, how Black businesses were always overlooked, how Black couples are not represented, and so they feel sort of tied to one type of wedding, which is where we're sort of overrepresented. So if you look at a lot of weddings, they're very, very sort of traditional hotel ballroom style weddings. And a lot of Black couples feel like that's the only choice they have because that's all they see themselves represented in. But I'm not traditional ballroom style, and I know there are lots of people out there like me, who want a more relaxed, casual, carefree, design-led or style-led kind of wedding, or a more urban kind of wedding, or boho wedding even. There are lots of brides who look like me and grooms who look like me who, have that kind of personality, but they just probably think it's not even a thing for them because they don't see it. So it started with me sort of getting pictures together in an Instagram account, where I would basically troll the web, troll Instagram, explore feeds and all the blogs I could find, and just pull all the pictures I could find of Black couples doing non-traditional style weddings. And I started sharing them in an Instagram feed. And then it was just really refreshing to not have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to find people that look like you. So I wanted to create that space for people like me who aren't, you know, the traditional Black bride or the traditional Black groom or the traditional Black couple. And I also started highlighting businesses on my own on the Studio Oudizo Instagram page. I started just anyone I would find, I would, you know, highlight them, hashtag buy Black, and then put them in a highlight. And it just started from there. And a few months ago, I started to think, you know what, we should make this a directory. We should make this like a more concrete thing so that they can easily be found. You know, they need a better platform than that. So I started working on Noire Wedding Edit. And then, of course, life happened. I have 2 kids. I've got like other commitments, and so I couldn't always dedicate as much time to it as I wanted.
Of course.
And then lockdown happened. And suddenly I had all this like free sort of mental space, and I decided to start working on it again properly. So it's nearly to completion at the moment. Fantastic. And so that's kind of how it all started. It was just my sort of one woman fight to bring some more diversity to the wedding industry, to bring visibility to these talented Black vendors who are constantly overlooked. I mean, it's a lot different now that everyone is sort of waking up to the reality of what it is to be Black in this world.
Yeah.
And everyone's suddenly trying to diversify, and I have thoughts on that, but maybe a different conversation.
If you want it, you can share your thoughts. It's a safe space to share your thoughts. So
if I start, Ross, I will never stop.
Okay.
So maybe
One thing I did, I think it was on your feed, you were talking about style shoots and
pat on the back type post, like look at us, look how amazing and inclusive we're being, and make it about them, and then make it about the couple's struggles or something, but completely overshadow the fact that this is just a couple in love, and maybe just focus on that.
Absolutely, yeah, and I totally agree. And like I've chatted to you briefly before, I've seen that from an LGBTQ point of view, where you see a same-sex couple, and then all of a sudden that's all about the post and how liberal the vendor is, which is great, but it's taken away from the fact that it's a couple in love.
Exactly.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah,
exactly. That's another thing I couldn't stand, like the style shoots where they'd have 2 models of the same gender pretend to be same-sex couple. Like, can you really not just find the same-sex couple?
Yeah, that's so true.
So basically, I've been sort of campaigning for representation, period, for all marginalized identities, you know, whatever your race, religion, sexuality, gender, like you should, or your ability, you should be able to see yourself. And right now it's pretty much just cis, straight, heterosexual white couples that are dominating everything.
Yeah, that are young, that are
skinny as well. It's just not representative of true society, is it?
Exactly. So yeah, and I think what's really wonderful about simply just the Noire Wedding Edit Instagram page is the diversity of weddings, like you said, that can exist. It's not just this is what a Black wedding looks like. It's a Black wedding can look like all sorts of things, and I think that's really important to highlight as much as anything.
Yeah, that was the goal for me, and honestly, it's making me want to get married again, because I've so much more access to, you know, resources than I did when I first got married, but not everybody will, and it's just great to have like a space where you can be like, this person can help you get XYZ. So I've also had people who have messaged me, you know, of all races, and say, you know, looking at this now, I actually think I want to have a wedding.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Like, I didn't want to have a wedding before, but now I think I want one. That's
really good. That's really important. And I think there's a lot of people that don't want a wedding because they think of a wedding as a really set thing. Yeah. And it doesn't meet with who they are. So I think it's important for all people to take that control. A lot of this podcast, and I wrote a book before I released this podcast, and it's for those people who don't see themselves basically in those wedding magazines and in the media. And hopefully things are starting to change. But I think the wedding industry is very, very slow still to embrace change and embrace diversity. Absolutely.
We have a lot of the bigger blogs are starting to actually listen and engage in conversations. Some are still not. I won't name any names. But how would you feel about doing like a coffee table book or something together, and we just focus on marginalized identities in weddings?
Yeah, I think that would be wonderful
for them.
Yeah, I think that would be a really lovely thing to do. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, it's very, I'd be interested on your thoughts on, obviously, with the protests recently, and we've seen, Blackout Tuesday, and then following Blackout Tuesday, there was a lot of, suddenly people had found the black couple that they'd shot 2 years ago suddenly appeared on their timeline. Or,
oh my God.
And I understood it from a
Did you see that meme?
Sorry?
Did you see that meme?
No.
Did you see that meme with it was basically like a lot of emojis of like blonde white chicks, like just row after row after row, and then you see like the black square, and then suddenly there's like brown emojis appearing. I don't want to deride people from good intentions, but there was a kind of cynic in me that was like, is this just for this week, and then does it go back? The feeds go back to how they were. Yeah. A lot of them are already back to how they were. Some of them literally just posted the square and continued on either side as normal, with no change, no acknowledgement, nothing. And it's the same thing I feel about like Pride Month. People suddenly posting rainbows and same-sex couples, and like, why weren't they doing that before?
Yeah.
Why are you just doing that now?
Yeah, and it's hard. I know we've touched on sort of tokenism, because I think it's about being an ally. So if you really, are passionate about supporting underrepresented communities, it's more than just one post a year, or a token photo on your website. You have to be active in supporting those communities. And obviously I've seen it from my point of view, and you must have seen it yourself. So it's about action. And I think the one thing I've tried to do recently is just sort of sit back a bit and listen before I sort of launch in or join in or try and sort of make any sort of statement or whatever it is online. Is just to sit back and read and sort of educate and see how best I can, go forward as a business and as an individual. And I think that's really important. And I hope that is one takeaway from recent events, that many more people are starting to just listen a bit more to other people's experiences.
I think that's the most important part of being an ally, is just listening and being open to hearing stuff that might make you uncomfortable sometimes.
Yes.
I'm not like, I'm probably about to out myself, but I am straight passing, but I'm not actually.
Okay.
It's not something I advertise or like talk about, but because it's not obvious, but because I'm Black and that's obvious, so it's but even then I don't feel like I can speak for the LGBTQ community, and I'd never ever try to.
No.
Because I know that as straight passing, my husband is obviously a dude, so so it's easy to pretend to be straight or pass as straight. I don't pretend to be anything, but people make assumptions.
Of course.
I'm never asked the question because they just assume.
Yeah.
So because I have that privilege, I never feel like I could actually sort of speak for the community or in the community,
Yeah, I think what's important, and I've seen sort of, not arguments, but posts on sort of online saying along the lines of, well, I have a Black friend and they think this, or I have a gay friend and they don't think this. And people are individual. So just because or you've spoken to one person from that community, their views don't necessarily represent the views of all their community. And I think that's where, we need more conversations and we need more diversity, because then you've got a multitude of voices and you can, break through that sort of misperception, I suppose. There are things, for me, I use the phrase LGBTQ or LGBTQIA, which is great. The word queer I feel really uncomfortable with because it was so negative when I was growing up. So that's not a term that I feel comfortable using, but I know that a lot of people do. So if you just come to me and I say I don't like that word, you know, don't refer to me as being queer, then they might go away and think that applies to everyone. But I know some people who identify as queer, and that's how they want to be seen. So
Well,
yeah, so it's seeing people as individuals, isn't it? And I think the more we see of people from different cultures, the more we can recognize that and not just have this, you know, lumping everybody together, which is what happens, you know.
It happens a lot with people in the LGBTQIA plus community, and also people of color, where people assume that one person said it, so everybody else must feel that way.
Yeah.
Do you know Ava of LGBTQ Equality
Yes,
Weddings?
I know her really well. I was part of the group. I was sort of a consultant and did some of the website reviews. So yeah, I know Ava well.
She has this thing she does. It's called the one person rule. That if it offends even one person, she won't do it / say it / share it / whatever.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way as well. Like, if a word is offensive to someone, even if it's just that one person, it's literally takes nothing away from me to not say it.
Exactly.
Someone tells me this is what their gender is and these are their pronouns. It takes nothing for me to use the right pronouns. I don't understand people who insist, but this person said, so it's fine. Yeah, but what about, you know, everybody is important.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's really important to understand that, and for people to get to grips with that. And like you say, it doesn't take any effort or anything away from your experience to not use a certain term or to use, you know, pronouns, or it doesn't change our experience, but it can really damage or upset somebody else's experience.
And it's the impact that's important, not your intention.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. So where do you see the Noire Wedding edit going forward? I know you've got a GoFundMe page, and I know you're doing really well because I've seen the updates. I get the email updates, and you've raised enough for sort of the website and sort of a bit of promotion. Is that the next step for you with it?
Yeah, the next step is finishing the website and then finding a PR company to work with. I really want to get us on TV and magazines and just basically become a household name in the UK as like a source for finding your wedding vendors, you know, whoever you are.
Yeah, and I think that's important. It's not a directory just for Black people planning a wedding. It's for anyone planning a wedding.
For anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just highlighting underrepresented people, but they will work with everyone.
Yeah, and I think what's really nice when you do that, I mean, I'm not blowing my own trumpet, and I've still got work to do. You know, there's always things I need to learn and develop in terms of being inclusive and diverse. But what I found by, you know, when I do a wedding fair and I have a mix of all types of couples on display, like you say, people see a couple in love, and they might, you know, I get straight couples getting ideas for a wedding dress, you know, from a lesbian couple that I've shot, or, you know, they see a venue and they really like a pose, or they really like how someone's done their hair, and you're seeing different bits of people that you can identify with. And I think that that's what's key, isn't it? Not just seeing sort of one person that looks exactly like you, but seeing a mix of people where you identify with different parts of different people. Especially, you know, when we have, you know, I think of, you know, the friends I have, you know, and you have a party and all your friends are in a room, and some of them don't get on at all, or they're so totally different because you have different friends that, you know, that appeal to different sides of you, and that, you know, you sort of share different experiences with, and that's what it's about for me anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that will attract people to you initially is being able to identify with, for example, when I would go to wedding fairs, I would kind of look around, and the photographers that had Black people in their portfolio would be the ones I'd go to first.
Yes.
And then I would start looking at the other things that they have.
Yeah.
You know, if I went to a fair and I saw a makeup artist, if I didn't see any Black faces in her portfolio, I would automatically think she doesn't know how to work with my skin tone, and I would move on to the next one.
Yeah, totally. I think it's
because you can say it. You can say, "Oh, I can," but if I haven't seen it, like, I don't really trust that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you want to, you know, there's a way of doing styled shoots. If you haven't had that experience, there's a way of getting that experience, and there's people that are willing to help you, you know, or guide you. So, you know, just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean you you know, if you really want to be diverse and you want to learn, you're a makeup artist and you want to learn how to do black people's skin, then obviously,
Yeah.
you know, it's on you to go and learn that and go and find it out, rather than bemoaning that nobody comes to you or books to you, so you haven't got the chance. If you're really passionate about providing that service for everyone, you will go and train and learn and take
Yeah,
it on.
style shoots are really good for that, because if someone's dropping a couple of grand on a wedding, they don't really want to be your experiment, you know.
Exactly.
But with style shoots, you can make as many mistakes as you like and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Absolutely. I find it so sad that you had to do your own hair, and the whole experience of planning a wedding was just sort of from that level of excitement down to sort of frustration and disappointment. I mean, that's your one.
Yeah, I mean, I
You still
couldn't
had a
even have
fantastic
jollof
day.
rice at my own wedding. I couldn't eat jollof rice at my own wedding. I don't know if you know Nigerian food at all, but jollof rice is a big deal.
Okay. How long, because you're in Cheltenham, aren't you? How long have you been in Cheltenham? Did you grow up there, or?
No, I only moved to the UK about 6 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, so before that, I've lived a lot of different places, actually, and then I fell in love with the dude that lived here, so I came to marry him. That's why I'm here.
Because as I say, I grew up not far from Cheltenham, and I lived in Cheltenham at university, so I know Cheltenham quite well.
Yeah.
But I know it's not the most multicultural of places to live.
It's
So
really not, and we're actually moving away this summer. We'd kind of tried for 6 years, but it just wasn't right for us.
no, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
It's a really lovely place. Like, it's a really nice place to raise kids and all, but diversity is important because my daughter, for example, she is very lovely, gorgeous, happy girl, but then she started going to school and she sort of changed. She started losing her self-confidence and all that stuff, and it turned out that kids at school were saying, not nice things to her, like, you can't play with us because you have brown skin. Skin's only for light-skinned people. Your hair looks evil, stuff like that.
That is,
And
in this day and age,
I mean,
devastating.
What?
I said it's just devastating to hear that, in 2020, that children are experiencing
Yeah,
that.
it was. And then we initially thought maybe we should move her to a different school, but it was kind of obvious that it would be the same anywhere, because they just don't see that difference growing up. It's not on TV, it's not in the media, it's not in their schools. Their teachers are all white, So we've been doing a lot of sort of reinforcing at home, so she is fine now. But we took her out of that school like a long time ago and all, but it was just enough at that point. My child shouldn't have to go through that.
No, no child should have to go through that. But yeah, that's heartbreaking as a parent as well.
Yeah, it really hurt. It really hurt because she was just not herself. She was telling me, why am I the only different one in my class? I don't want to be brown anymore. I wish I had peach skin. And there's a point where she was literally like trying to pull her hair straight and was ripping it out.
Oh.
It was pretty bad, and it just cemented the fact that this is not the place for us. So we're moving somewhere a bit more diverse.
Okay. Well, I hope her experiences drastically improve when you move, and she can, be happy in her own skin as she should be. So yeah, no.
She is now. She is happy in her own skin now, thankfully. I had to do a lot of work with her to sort of counteract all that damage. And I'm not naive enough to think that wherever we go, we won't face issues like this. But there's just something about sort of having more people like you that makes you feel a bit stronger.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's natural.
And you don't feel as alone. Like in Cheltenham, we feel a bit isolated because while people are nice, they're not exactly warm and welcoming either. I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, yeah, it's just it's a sort of an energy you pick up on, probably.
And I'm on some of our local Facebook groups, and it just kind of makes me not want to talk to anyone.
Oh God, I'm really sorry to hear that. But
especially now, and they're all being vocal about BLM and how they really feel about Black people, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this is definitely not the place for us.
Oh no, that is really not good to hear at all. But you are doing wonderful things, and hopefully when you move, you and your children will have much more positive experiences, and as a result of what you're doing, hopefully that will filter out into sort of wider society, because I think every little thing, every project like that you do is going to have an impact, and it may take time, but it's is such a fantastic thing to do. It's something, you know, in an ideal world we shouldn't need to do, but at the moment, you know, we need to do it, and you're doing it really well. So before we go, share your websites and your social media handles so people can go and see your work and your directory.
Okay, so my website for my stationery business is studioudizo.com. Are you going to write a caption or something, because it's really hard to spell just by hearing it?
No, I will put all the details. Yeah, so this will all go out, so it'll be in the comments in the description of the episode. So don't worry.
Okay, good. So and I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest as Studio Oudizo as well. And the Noire Wedding Edit, the website is coming soon, but you can just find us on Instagram, Noire Wedding Edit, and you'll also find a link to our GoFundMe there if you'd like to help out or share or support. Yeah. We'd be grateful. Thank you, Ross, for having me.
No, thank you so much for coming on. I know it's sometimes sort of a difficult conversation to have, and I wanted to give you a platform to share, you know, your experience and what you've been working on, which is wonderful, and just to listen and learn from you, and hopefully there are not just couples listening, but other people within the wedding industry listen as well, and hopefully they've learned something from the chat today, and it has, you know, a positive impact going forward. But it's been really lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll speak to you again hopefully when the website's back up and it's taken off and you've achieved even more wonderful things. So thank you so much, and take care.
And also listen stuff. Yeah, you can't see me, but I'm smiling right now.
Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Bye.